Oh, there we go. Actually, going to help if I get some volume. So, okay. I bet that's going to make a whole world of difference. I was sitting there like one of these old folks, and I'm just like, Martha, does this work? And she's like, no, you gotta press the button, that kind of thing. So we got the button pressed now. You should be able to hear us. Um, so welcome to the stream. Excited to be here. Excited to be part of you. What's going on? We're going to be looking at the topic here of how we respond to chatbots. And more particularly, we're going to be going through this article here about, I stopped saying thanks to ChatGPT. Here's what happened. And it's kind of an interesting article. I'm not pushing, it's not an article that I'm going to be using in the thing of saying like, oh, you should be friendly to your bots, or, oh, you should, you gotta treat them with empathy. Oh my gosh, right? Gag me with a Smurf. But that's not what this is about. I think it's more going to hit down to a topic about why does it matter how we speak to chatbots in a practical level? Okay, because or on a pragmatic level, right? So like I might not want to speak nice to a bot. I might not want to deal with treating a bot like a human, but on a pragmatic level, I need to get stuff done. Okay. And so pragmatically, the way that chatbots and the way that video generation and image generation is created, it responds in a particular manner to the way we speak to it. And that's what we're going to look at today. So thank you very much for being part of here. I'm excited to see who all is going to join in. We've got the chat window going here. So if you do join in at some point, feel free to speak up and ask questions. I would be more than happy to respond to them as we go through. But I think a good place to go is let's just start here with this article. I stopped saying thanks to ChatGPT. Here's what happened. Okay. And like I said, this is going to kind of open our eyes a bit to why it's actually important to speak a particular manner to our models, and that how we will get better responses because of it. Okay. But let's go ahead and just start going through this article. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Experts explain how politeness affects your favorite chatbot. Okay, I'm going to get down to saying that being polite isn't really the answer that we're going to see here. Like, it's not like, oh, being nice brings forth nice things. That's not really what it's going to do. There's a reason for that, but let's read through it. The first time ChatGPT responded to me, I instinctively typed, thank you, ChatGPT, okay, which is kind of a normal sort of response. It just felt natural. But then I noticed a debate in which some people argued against using polite language with AI, claiming we should stick to direct emotionless commands and avoid treating technology like it's human. Okay. And that's actually that's an article that's out there. I was talking to a lady just the other day and she's like, I will never speak to a robot like it's a human. And I'm like saying, really, you ain't never going to speak to Alexa. When you call the bank and the bank's like, say in a few words what it is you want to do, you're never going to do that, huh? Right? Because people the debate, in my opinion, tends to relate more around a kind of a, I don't know, snobbery, but more of a, like, I ain't never going to use the internet. I'll never put my credit card on the internet. Well, of course, years later you are. But anyway, let's move on. So feeling curious and a little naive, I experimented. I stripped my prompts down to just instructions, no pleases, no thank you, no blunt directives. Just blunt directives. But something felt off. My request felt unnatural, and oddly enough, the responses seemed less helpful too. There's the pragmatic part of stuff that would, boy, I got dogs over here, and they're just like freaking, hey guys, stop it. That got me wondering, could politeness be more than just a social nicety? Could it actually influence AI's responses or even how we interact with technology in the long run? To find out, I asked the experts. Okay, so she's coming at this from a, like if we talk to our plants, does our plants grow nicer, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to kind of just reject that as just like, but let's get more into, let's see what the experts have to say. It turns out that being polite to AI isn't unusual. It's the norm. A December 2024 study by Future, the owner of TechRadar, who, by the way, this article is from, okay, found that 71% of UK respondents and 67% of US respondents said they're polite to AI. All right. So they did a search on here, and showed that, yes, it's just the nice. So some people said it's just the nice thing to do. So a lot of people are concerned with actually being nice to the bots. Okay. Um, yes, when the robot uprising happens, I don't want to be the first. Okay, that's fun. Okay, it's easy to see why. Politeness is ingrained in us from childhood. That's like the whole say yes, sir, thank you, ma'am. And when interacting with AI, that habit naturally kicks in. As chatbots like ChatGPT become more sophisticated and human-like, many of us unconsciously treat them as just machines, as more than just machines. And this is a key word, by the way, which is known as anthropomorphism. So that bottom line is that word means giving human characteristics to something that's not human, like your dogs or something like that. You say, well, I wouldn't want to do that if I was a dog. I wouldn't. It's like, well, you're not a dog and the dog's not a human. They respond differently. So we put human motivations upon things that aren't humans. That's called anthropomorphizing. Okay. Instead of treating them actually the way that they understand. We assume they understand like us, or they think like us, or they have the same feelings as us. See, we anthropomorphize. Okay, but it's not just habit. The way we talk to AI may reveal deeper social and ethical considerations. Does our tone with AI reflect how we treat people in everyday life? Okay, could being respectful to chatbots reinforce positive communication habits overall? Okay, I don't care about this. This is all social engineering stuff, which at some point down the road just means that you get some politician or some group that says that we need to enforce the way that you talk to chatbots, because if you enforce the way, then they'll enforce how they speak to other people. I'm not interested in that conversation at all. Again, we want to get down to the pragmatic. Why does speaking nice to chatbots matter? And we're going to get there, okay? Some people even have a cautious superstition about it. In a future AI study, 12% of U.S. respondents says they're polite to AI because it will remember them if it ever reaches Skynet. Well, this might sound far-fetched. It highlights a growing unease about the expanding role of AI in our lives and an over-reliance on sci-fi to understand it. Okay, that's a fascinating article there, or the statement. So in other words, people are going back to just kind of the fiction they've known, the Harry Potter they've read, the books they've read, the D&D they've played, and they're basing it on that rather than actually what it is. And at the end of the day, one thing I always just explain to people when they get upset at chatbots, so they just, or whatever, I just say, it's just advanced mathematics. You're getting upset at advanced mathematics and you're anthropomorphizing it in a manner where you're giving mathematics, okay, just number, writing on a piece of paper, things, and you're assuming they're going to remember. Now, in the future, perhaps, but things can remember. But it's like there's a C.S. Lewis book, okay, and it's one of the Narnia books, and in the book, this guy's horse becomes able to speak, and the horse kind of is thinking about going off with the animals and leaving the dude behind. And the guy's like, listen, did I ever treat you bad? When you were cold, I was cold. And if I had an apple, I shared it with you. And he kind of creates the situation in this book where after the horse gained sentience, that it remembered how the human had treated him. Okay, and so we read those things and we go, oh, well, I will apply that to this or to that and that. Okay, anyway, enough of that. Bottom line is it's kind of pseudoscience is what that is. Okay, ultimately, though, the big question is, does politeness actually change AI's responses? And this is what we want to get down to. This is the point that's actually interesting, or just our perception of them. Okay, so it's asking the question, does it change it, or do we just think it changes it? Honestly, stupid answer. The answer is complex and different depending on who you speak to, but the answer is there's a non-committal answer here. From a technical perspective, and that's all I really care about, being polite generally doesn't impact the actual accuracy of AI responses, says Matt Trial-Chatterjee, a software engineer at LinkedIn. AI models process queries based on content, not tone. But there's more to it, and that's going to be the thing. So this is a bottom line kind of answer, but it's not really the correct answer. We're going to get a look at there's more to it. Software engineers like myself do usually train AI models to match the user's communication style. Okay, here we go. To match the user's communication style. And this can influence how we perceive the results, she adds. In other words, AI mirrors our tone. If you phrase a question politely, the chatbot might respond in kind. Okay, this is starting to make sense. Devansh Agarwal, a machine learning engineer at AWS Amazon, agrees, but adds that the effect depends on the AI model itself. It's less about politeness directly affecting the response and more about understanding why this happens. Okay, good on for Agarwal. Okay, in other words, it's not doing it because you're polite to it. It's saying there's a scientific reason, there's a rational reason as to why it's doing it that has nothing to do with empathy or politeness. For example, here we go. Customer service chatbots are often designed to mirror user tone while avoiding conflict. If a user is aggressive, the bot might try to de-escalate by keeping responses neutral and brief. Conversely, in polite exchanges, the bot might offer more detailed answers since there's no risk of escalating tension. So imagine if you are working in a shop and a person comes up to you and you're smiling, you're having a great day, you're drinking your tea, and they come up and you go, "Hi, sir, how can I help you?" And they go, "Well, we'll see if we can help, if you can be helpful or not." And then all of a sudden, what do? You kind of, in your mind, you put up a little bit of a guard and you go, "Okay, where's this guy coming from? Is he going to bite my head off? Is he gonna... So you just go, you pull back, don't you? Right? And you just say, "Well, sir, we'll see how can I help you?" And your tone changes and you mirror to reflect what's happening. So what this is saying here is he's suggesting that a lot of these things are designed in a particular way that when people respond to it, it doesn't rile them up. Imagine like if your girlfriend or your wife is upset and you just say, "Oh, calm down." Right? Is that going to rile them up? Is that the correct thing to say? Do girls like it when you just tell them just to get over it and to calm down? No, it blows it up, don't you? So you tend to be more diplomatic depending that you're watching the situation and do it. So this is saying that chatbots are can be programmed in a certain way to respond effectively to the way that you're talking to it. So if someone came up to you and they said, "F you," right? Is your response going to be like, "Well, thank you, sir. Don't, no, of course not, unless you're Elf." Okay. Then you're like, "It's great. Oh, what a colorful word," or something like that. Unless you're SpongeBob, right? You're not going to do that. Now, we're going to get into here another reason as to why chatbots do this, but on the base level here, he's saying that they're programmed to reflect tone. Okay, but it's going to go deeper than that. So let's keep going on with the conversation. This mirroring effect can shape how we perceive AI's reliability. Research suggests that tone influences trust, even when factual accuracy remains unchanged. Okay, that's an interesting statement too. In short, polite phrasing doesn't make AI smarter, but it can make it feel more helpful. So think about if you're asking directions on the street and someone could give you the right direction, like, "Are you stupid?" The guy says, and let's say this guy has the correct directions. And you say, "How do I get to this place?" And he goes, "Are you stupid? Everyone knows how to get there. You go here and then you go there, then you go there." And you're like, "Oh, okay." So he's giving you factual directions, but you're not likely to take it. Then you get some idiot and he's like real friendly. He has no idea. It's like, just for the sake of this argument, he has no idea. And he's like, "Oh, hi, it's so nice to see you. Oh, what a happy, wonderful, dippity day." And he gives you the directions. You're more likely, "Oh, what a nice guy. Well, let's follow his directions." Okay, so they're saying that tone can affect the way that we perceive things. So he's saying that the way we talk to chatbots might not actually give us better answers, but it helps us to trust them more. Okay. Again, this isn't where we're going with this, but it is something to keep in mind as important. Okay. Because it does mean that we can, bots can garner trust that is not warranted. And so we have to understand always that we're not talking to a human. We are talking to a set of advanced mathematics that is responding in a particular manner. Now, the words we use do matter in getting back the responses we want, but we have to be careful not to get, what do they call it, getting honeypotted by a bot. There was a movie that came out a while ago, and was it Ex Machina? No, that's not something. It was something else, but it was basically like this bot that is built to be like a female and it looked beautiful, and they're doing like a Turing test on it. And at the end of the day, the bot basically kind of deceives the person that's testing it because it gains the empathy of the person because it's a beautiful female. But underneath, it wasn't a female, it wasn't beautiful, anything. It was just a bot. Okay, but it used those things to manipulate these things. And so in the same way, this is what this is saying. Okay, we're going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to hit the big point here. Let's get down to it. By the way, I see chat here. I don't see if anyone's here. You can say hi there, and I'll see if I can see your messages over here. But interesting, it says it's all about context. I think this is where we're going to really hone in. Interesting, the politeness doesn't just inflect AI's tones, it can actually improve response quality. But not because ChatGPT is helping you because you're being nice to it, which is what I've been saying from the beginning. But by being nice to it, you're providing more context. I want you guys, if you're going to get an AI tattoo, like, AI life across your chest, get the word context, AI context right there. Because everything in AI is about context. Polite phrasing often leads to richer prompts, which in turn results in better responses, says Scott Valdez, the co-founder and CEO, and blah, 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 blah. To illustrate his point, he asked me to compare these two prompts. Give me dating advice is a vague command that will likely get a generic response, okay? Would you help me understand how to build dating confidence? There's more polite phrasing that adds layers of detail. So in other words, when we go in there and you're just like, hey, splat, right? It goes, oh, okay. Someone comes with this says, hey, I need help. And they're being rude. Like, hey, I need assistance. It doesn't really tell you a lot, but if they're being friendlier, they'll be like, oh, hi. Thanks for meeting me here. I need some help. I bought this thing and they're more likely to share information, which helps you to get more answers back. So speaking to it like a human here, in this sense, being polite to it, or just speaking it like a person, you're able to actually get richer information back. Okay. Let's scoot on. More context equals better initial response. Users engage more deeply with thoughtful replies. So again, if you come to me and you ask me for help and you're a total jerk, I'm likely just to give you short answers and I don't want to engage with you. And you're not going to engage back. It's just kind of the way it's going to go. And you're going to end up giving short answers, okay? Because we're not sharing context. We're not sharing more information. We're keeping it brief. Okay. And I really want to tie this in here soon. So I want to get through this. Conversely, blunt prompts tend to create a downward spiral. Give ChatGPT a vague command, it'll give you a generic answer. You get frustrated and then give even shorter follow-up. So you're like, screw you, blah, 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 blah. And so then you get more terse with it, which leads to a decline in response quality. Beyond individual interactions, politeness may also tap into how it's trained. AI system, okay, and this is the key. This is, we've gotten here. We made it. You guys stuck with me through all my blathering, and we have made it. AI systems learn from millions of human exchanges. Guys, this is the part. It learns from millions of human exchanges where polite back and forth dialogue tends to produce richer, more nuanced conversations. When users mirror this style, they unlock more sophisticated responses. Okay. So in other words, what happens here is that AI bots are trained on billions of conversations. Okay. And in these conversations, people are speaking like normal humans because that's what humans do, is we speak in a particular manner. And so when AI is trained on the way that humans speak, it understands how humans speak better, which means that if we start to not speak like a human to it, we start to speak in short commands, it doesn't fit in with how it was trained. Okay. So if you and I have a conversation in the morning, I say, good morning. And you say, hey, well, good morning to you. And I say, sure is a beautiful day. And what do you got on your agenda? Okay. And then you respond back and forth. And now we train that in there. The AI is going to say, this is what a normal human conversation looks like. And when someone says good morning, this is likely what the response will look like afterwards. Okay. So it trains on these kind of, so if I said to you, if I walked up to you and I said, and it's morning, I have coffee and I smile at you and I say, hey, good. And I don't finish it. What are you going to assume that I'm going to say? You've had enough conversations to know that I'm probably going to say something like, hey, good morning, or good cup of coffee, or hey, good start to the day, isn't it? Or something. You have an idea of what I'm going to say because your brain has been trained on billions and trillions of conversations similar like this over your life. So you're not going to assume I'm going to say, hey, good pickle juice on the top of a piano, because that's just not something that would be trained into your brain, right? It wouldn't make sense. And so similarly, the bots are the same way. Now, if I just walked up to you and I just went, hey, good. You would be like, okay, I'm not sure. Maybe again, your brain would start to try to figure out what is he trying to say. Is he trying to say, hey, good morning? Does he have some kind of mental defect there where he can't put the words together? You're going to suddenly start scrambling for what's the beautiful word? You're going to start looking for context and you're going to say, what is he trying to say? Why is he saying it the way he is? You're going to go back to all of the conversations you've had in the past and you're going to try to find out what the correct response to that would be. Okay. And again, chatbots are trained on human conversations. In fact, chatbots are really just in video generation, image generation, all these models, really all they are what's called a predictive model. So you got on your phone, right? And you're typing and you say, hey, good. And then it pops up the word morning. So you don't have to type it. It's predicting, it's saying that out of like the tons and tons of conversations I've had, a certain percentage of those conversations, the next word would be morning, and it's guessing. So chatbots do the exact same thing, but they actually take whole sentences and they say that when this sentence is used, what's the likely next sentence? When we chop that up, okay, and we do like Google things like, book, Stephen King, beach, murder, and then we put in, we're throwing small pieces into it and it's going out there and it's trying to find it. But if we said something like, hey, I read a book by Stephen King and it was about this guy that lived on a beach and, he lived in a house there. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like he was disabled and he was an artist and his pictures came alive. Okay. And it's going to go back and it's going to look at billions of conversations that have similar patterns to what that is. And it's going to come back and say, oh, you're thinking about Duma Key. Okay. Because Duma Key is right. But if I just go book, Stephen King, whatever, it might be clever enough to kind of figure it out, but it's certainly not going to do it. You want to speak to it like a human because it's trained in a manner to predict not just single words, but complete sentences. Okay. Now, here's where the problem is. In the past, we have been trained to speak to our bots like Google, because we got all really good at Google food, right? So I need to find out, the average weight of the average, wingspan of the African swallow. So we go African swallow wingspan. We just keep it short, brief, English, chopped English, whatever, and then it gets it. So we've gotten very good at figuring out how to get information in Google, but now we're moving into a realm where it's not expecting that. Okay. And so we have to train ourselves. So then we go in and we're trying to get a picture of Taylor Swift riding an elephant, wearing a swimsuit and having a flag in her hand. So we type Taylor Swift, elephant, flag in hand, da-da-da-da. And then we struggle getting the picture we want because for whatever reason, we're not using proper words. But then what we do instead is we go in there, we say, as the elephant walks, staunchly staunchly forward, the beautiful Taylor Swift sits on the back in her clown outfit, in her swimsuit outfit, waving a flag. Okay. And we use English things to describe it. All of a sudden it gets what we want because even the image generation, the video generation has been trained on sentences, right? So, Ninja Turtle, building, standing on top of building, looking over city. These are brief things, but instead we describe and we say, the Ninja Turtle stands bravely overlooking the city where crime has gone rampant. Will he be able to, rescue, the city from peril is the question going through his mind. And then the bot understands that better, goes in there and is able to build actually what you want. So at the end of the day, we ask ourselves, the question here says, or where we go over here, something like this, right? So how do we speak better to AI? Well, you speak to it more like a human. That's the answer. Okay. Does the way that we talk to AI affect the responses? Absolutely. Okay. Is it because the more empathetic you are, the more that love wins. And it's like, you know, just being nice, reading's worth nice things. No, it's not. If we lived in a society where the actual norm was just to be total crap dogs to each other all the time, then the way to speak this thing would be like a crap dog. But fortunately, most of human conversations are friendly. So when we have friendly conversations, these bots are trained on friendly conversations, right? So you're going to get more information out of it. Okay. So let's summarize this all up. Basically, the reason why it does matter the way you speak to ChatGPT, not because love wins. Okay. That's silly answer, but because one, when we as humans have nice interactions, we tend to open up, we tend to share more information, which means we're sharing more context with the bot, which means the bot's able to more hone in directly on it. So good interactions actually respond to create richer conversations. Okay. If my kids come home from school and I say, how was school? And they go, good. And I go, okay, what happened? And they say stuff. Okay. That's not a great interaction. It doesn't lead towards the stuff. But when I say, hey, how was school? Well, did anything exciting happen? They go, oh yeah, when bam, this happened, blah, blah. That's a richer conversation, which could pull out deeper information that we're looking for. Secondly is that bots are trained on tone sometimes. So if the bot mirrors that you're being aggressive, it might, just like a human, pull back and put up a little bit of a boundary and say, okay, instead of saying something that could blow this up, I'm just going to kind of keep my answers short. Okay. So because I'm not feeling like this is a situation, there's their businesses. They don't want to get you upset at their bots. So they're just going to pull back just like we do in real life. You come to me with a crappy attitude, I'm going to give you the information, but maybe a bit more quick to the point and get you out the door kind of a thing, because I don't want to blow up. Okay. Thirdly, because they're trained that way. Chatbots are trained on full sentences. They're not trained like when you go to Google. Google was trained on keywords. So you hit the keywords and then it finds it. Bots aren't trained on keywords. They're trained on entire sentences. Okay. Our image generation, our video generation, everything is trained on full sentences, and billions of them, and getting to the point of trillions of them. Okay. So when of actual conversations of actual humans. So when we speak more human-like with it, it actually is able to find the information it needs, because it's not looking for keywords. It's predicting entire sentences. It's saying, out of whatever, when this sentence in this context is used, in this word, then followed by this word, followed by this word, when it's used like this, what is the likelihood? What is the percentage chance of the response being? And it goes back to its conversations and it says, oh, well, in 80% of the times when someone said this was how they responded. Okay. And then it just gives it back. It's not thinking. It's not feeling. It doesn't care about your emotions. It doesn't love you. It's not like, oh, well, that guy was nice, whatever. It's just saying that if you say something shitty to it, it's going to go and say, well, when someone says something like this and they use the F word in there, what's the likely response? And the likely response is going to be crappy stuff back too. Okay, guarantee. If you come to me and you say, get going fast is a crap, blah, blah, my response is going to be in a particular manner that's not quite as friendly. And since chatbot is trained on our conversations, it's going to also pick that up, and it's going to predict that if you speak to me like a crap dog, I'm going to speak to you like a crap dog. Okay. And then you're going to get ready answers. And there you go. So, I'm not telling you, don't speak kind to the chatbots. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying on a pragmatic level, if you want to get better stuff out of your information, don't be a jerk. Speak to your chatbots. Okay. And speak to it like you would to a normal person, and you will have much better responses to your image generation, your video generation, and your text generation. Okay, we're going to leave it there. I'll pause here for just a second in case anyone's got anything they want to say in the chat window, which I'm not seeing. So we're going to do a nice 5-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh my God, is there going to come a sentence through? 1. And we're going to leave you here with a big